In this video, we're going to look at mid-range polishing of our sample, and we assume that we have already finished with our grinding step for the sample. The sample after grinding should certainly be rinsed off so that you are not contaminating additional pads and polishing pads during the mid-range polishing process. We move to the mid-range polishing system, and we're going to select preparation methods from the main menu. We're going to do that simply by pressing the button on the scroll wheel, and we're going to move down to the JHU Lab menu selection. So just like we did on the grinding step. Now that we have that selected, we are once again polishing an aluminum silicon alloy. So we're going to locate the polishing method that most closely matches the material that we are trying to polish. So we're going to use the scroll wheel to scroll to the aluminum silicon polishing protocol. When we select this, the first step in our list has already been completed. That was the grinding using silicon carbide. That was completed on the grinding station, so the second step that we do on the mid-range polisher is the 9-micron diamond slurry. To select that one, we're going to use the scroll wheel to go down to the 9-micron step, and it tells us that we want to use the Largo polishing pad. All of the polishing pads are located over in the polishing disc storage area. That's in this region. We're going to look down and locate the Largo pad, and we're going to pull that out from our tower. The Largo pad, or either one of the 9-micron pads, are honeycomb shaped pads that do fairly coarse polishing for the diamond slurries. We're going to place this pad on the magnetic footprint centered on the polishing wheel, and we're going to lower our polishing head. We lower it by using the up-down yellow key, just in close proximity to the scroll wheel. So we lower that polishing head, and we're going to take our sample and place it in one of the available positions. Since this system does point loading for all of the samples and does individual loading for all of the samples, it doesn't matter which one you select. We have our proper step selected in the protocol, and we're going to hit the start button. You do not need to pre-dose or to provide water to the polishing wheel. It automatically doses the diamond slurries, and it will spin up once it has an appropriate amount of fluid on that polishing pad. The time period required is automatically selected, and it says 7 minutes remains for this polishing step. So we will allow this polishing step to conclude before moving on. Now that the 9-micron polishing step has concluded, we want to wash the pad off and get ready for the next 3-micron step that is specified by the test protocol. So to clean this pad and to clean the system off to prevent cross-contamination, we want to raise the polishing head, and we're going to remove our sample. We want to start the water flow, and often if you hit the water flow and it does not start, then I usually hit escape a couple of times and then hit the water flow, and that will allow the water flow to come out. It prevents you from messing up the polishing protocol. With the water flow on, I usually will go ahead and rinse my sample off underneath the water flow. Get it thoroughly rinsed, and now it's time to go ahead and rinse the pad. Take a paper towel and simply dry my sample off. To rinse the pad, we leave the water flowing and we're going to turn the wheel. This will allow the polishing pad to be rinsed. After we've let water run on it for a little bit, we can turn the water off, let it spin dry the pad, and after all the excess water has been removed from the pad, we're going to stop the spinning wheel and replace our polishing disc inside our tower. The next step to polishing was the 3-micron step. Since I hit escape a couple of times so that we could clean that pad off thoroughly, we'll need to go back to preparation methods. When I return to preparation methods, it automatically takes me to where I last left off. We are at the 9-micron is selected. Let's go down to the 3-micron step. And this tells us that we need to use the DAC polishing pad. We're going to locate that in the tower over here. The DAC pad, 3 microns. And let's pull that pad out and use it. This pad, it's blue whenever it starts out. It's black now, but that's just because some polishing debris is on the pad, but it is still in very good shape. It will still work very well for your purposes, or for most purposes. If you have a material that happens to be easily contaminated by other materials such as copper or aluminum or other alloys, you may want to have your own set of polishing pads. I'm going to wipe off the polishing head prior to lowering it. This just makes sure any residual polishing medium is taken off of there. And I'm going to lower the polishing head. Replace my sample in one of the available locations and hit the start button to start the 3-micron polishing process. Notice once again I did not have to pre-dose the pad, one because it was already a pad that had been previously used, so you do not need to pre-dose those, nor did I have to run water on it to provide lubrication. It does that automatically. Now that the 3-micron step is completed, we want to go ahead and rinse the 3-micron pad in preparation for the final polishing. So once again, we go ahead and hit escape a couple of times to take us back to the main menu, and that's going to allow us to raise our polishing head, remove our sample, and start the rinse process. So we press the rinse button, the water button, that causes water to flow. I'm going to rinse my sample off. And this takes all of the polishing debris off of the sample so that we're not contaminating the other pads. We also want to go ahead and rinse the sample holder on the polishing head. So just taking some water and rinse that off. Now we're going to spin the polishing wheel while water is flowing, and that's just going to help rinse this polishing pad. And we'll turn off the water, allowing the water to be spun off of this pad. Once all the excess water is off, we're going to stop the spinning process, remove the polishing pad, and replace it into the polishing tower. Close that up. And now we want to use a new fresh paper towel to wipe off our polishing head. Do not use the one that you previously used for a 9-micron slurry. So we dry that off, and now we're ready to continue with the next polishing step. The next polishing step, after I went back into our preparation methods, is to use the nap pad and the 1-micron diamond suspension. So I'm going to go to the tower, remove the nap pad, I'm going to affix it to the magnetic wheel, lower the sample holder, place the sample into an available position, and hit the start button. It's automatically going to dose the 1 micron slurry. Now that the 1 micron polishing step is finished, we can go ahead and clean the system so that the next user will have a good experience, and we will move to the final polishing. To clean the system, we're going to raise the polishing head, press escape once again to get to the main menu so that we can dispense our water. Starts the water flow, we'll rinse our sample, as so. Be careful at this point. Once you get down to the 1 micron, you don't really want to rub the surface aggressively because you may wind up adding additional scratches. So we're just going to rinse our sample off, spin our polishing wheel to remove some of the excess debris, turn the water off first, allowing the excess water to be spun off, stop the wheel, and then replace our polishing pad back into the tower. And that concludes the video for mid-range polishing.